In physics, friction is a force that directly opposes the relative motion between two systems in contact, more specifically kinetic friction. Well, why do we care about that? We can apply this physics concept metaphorically to building habits. In psychology and habit building, we make the use of metaphorical friction to help us put the brakes on bad habits that we might want to change. We call this high friction, and to help grease the wheels of good habits that we want to build. We call that low friction. High friction is useful because it can give your body and mind a chance to slow down and think about the consequences of any action you're about to take, instead of just going through the motions of a habit that you're otherwise conscious is detrimental to whatever your goals might be. It promotes a sense of mindfulness, essentially. Here's a few examples of high friction that I've used, some general, some more specific. Number one, very obvious thing, hide, or better yet, don't even buy trigger foods. Trigger foods are any high caloric foods that you know that if you eat one or some, you're going to overeat them. Chips, candies, cookies, ice cream, general snack foods. Very few sane people can eat one cookie, especially when dieting or on a caloric deficit. Our physiologies have evolved to crave sugars and fats, especially if it's losing weight. So this is not some matter of willpower. People that get into shape and stay in shape have the habit of not being enticed by these things in general, typically by not keeping them in their homes and or environments. Or they make it very hard to access them. They add high friction to their snacking habits. Now, there's degrees and nuances to this. Always talk about balance. If you have a heavy habit of snacking, or if there's a particular trigger food that you feel like you can't do without, you just wean yourself off of it with time. Maybe not even completely, just to the point that you can actually moderate it. Fit it into your meal plan in a more measured way, and or come up with some kind of substitute that fulfills the craving if quitting cold turkey is just not an option for you. Your overall most sustainable diet will likely be some composition of the two things. And as a side note, if you don't have a general meal plan that takes some of those substitutions and or cravings into consideration, you absolutely need to do this. Now, to get a little bit more personal, when I was getting in shape, I used to love eating Doritos. Even long after I lost the weight, I was still battling bad eating habits that kept me from getting into the kind of shape that I wanted to be in. And Doritos were one of those things that I just had to work into my diet every week or so. I'd have to at least have 2 bags of Doritos once or twice a week. But over time, I started valuing my physique and how I felt more than the Doritos. The process of getting back into shape after overeating sucks due to all the physical bloat and psychological traumas associated with the feelings of failing. So when you get to a certain level of athletic performance and you're used to looking and feeling healthier and more fit, deviations from that norm can actually feel traumatic. So what I used to do is I tell myself, look, you can have the Doritos, but if you want them, you're going to have to walk half a mile to the corner store and pay premium price tag for those Doritos. I added a form of high friction to that behavior. Taking that long walk to and from the corner store allowed me to reflect on my behavior and the potential damage I was about to do to my mind and my body with those bags of chips. Walking a mile to spend $10 on 2 bags of Doritos really forced me to put things into perspective, and it forced me to ponder my relationship with food. That even though I lost over 100 pounds, I still had an eating disorder that needed to be addressed. It also helped me come up with solutions to the problem. I ended up workshopping in my mind healthier snack alternatives that I ended up enjoying more during those walks. It also mitigated the damage of eating the chips in the first place by forcing me to burn some calories in order to get the Doritos. So again, it promoted a form of mindfulness that stimulated problem-solving behaviors and performances. Now I don't even think about Doritos anymore. I don't have an appetite for them. I just applied the necessary amount of friction that allowed me to work on weaning off of that behavior over time. And that's going to, and that's going to work at different rates for different people. You don't have to force this too aggressively. And there are actually many other junk foods that I ended up applying the strategy to, because again, Rome was not built in a day. Number 2, control your environment. This is more of a 1A or a 1B than a 2, but the more control you have over your environment, the easier it is to manage friction. If you have roommates or family members that enjoy particular trigger foods, it's helpful to talk to them about your health and fitness goals. Ask them to hide their snacks, not to keep the candy on the coffee table anymore, or hide their buckets of ice cream under the vegetables in the freezer. Ask them not to eat them in your line of sight or to make sure not to offer you any of their junk food. Initially, this might sound like you're inconveniencing the people around you, but you'd be surprised. When it comes to health and fitness goals, most people are actually very supportive of these things, especially if you're willing to just talk to them about it and express how important it is to you. You might even motivate them to make some changes on their own, which is going to help out your entire household and make achieving your goals that much easier. Same goes for your work environment. Treat it like a second home. For me, I would frame the whole thing as an insult for the person to offer me junk food, assuming the person knows my goals. Because if they know about my health and fitness goals and they're still offering me trigger foods or trying to put me in situations that might cause me to deviate from my health and fitness goals, they're essentially showing a disrespect to my principles and motivations, denying me of my sense of agency and humanity by essentially trying to call my bluff or tempt me. I implore you to do the same. This might sound extreme, but it's only because the average person just does not take their health and fitness very seriously. And we can see the obvious ramifications of that in the total health of our population. This is why it's very important to make your health and fitness goals explicit to the people around you, the people that you actually care about, not social media. That's it for high friction. I'll do a low friction video at a different time. Until then, stay safe, hug your neighbor, peace.